Standing center stage at Carnegie Hall, Aria froze, as thousands of eyes burned into her. 3 months ago, she was just another bullied black girl at Jefferson High, until they forced her to sing as a cruel joke. Now, taking a deep breath, she prepared to change everything. Before we dive into this incredible journey, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe if you've ever felt underestimated. Have you ever witnessed a moment when someone turned cruelty into triumph? Let's find out how Aria's voice shattered not just silence but barriers. Aria Jackson was no stranger to being different. At 12 years old, she already carried the weight of responsibility far beyond her years. Growing up in Riverside, one of Atlanta's struggling neighborhoods, meant learning early lessons about injustice and perseverance. Their small apartment echoed with memories of her mother, whose absence left a void that even Nana Ruth's unwavering love couldn't completely fill. Nana Ruth worked 3 jobs just to keep their lights on and food on the table ever since Aria's mother died from an illness that proper health care might have treated. The system wasn't built for folks like us. Nana Ruth would say, not with bitterness, but as a simple statement of fact, like commenting on the weather. Despite their circumstances, Aria excelled academically, devouring books, borrowed from the underfunded local library, and staying after school to use the ancient computers. Her exceptional grades caught the attention of Jefferson High School's scholarship committee, who were eager to add diversity to their prestigious institution nestled in Atlanta's wealthiest white suburb. The acceptance letter arrived on a rainy Tuesday, its crisp letterhead a stark contrast to the water-stained ceiling above. "This is your chance, baby girl," Nana Ruth had whispered, her weathered hands trembling as she clutched the envelope. "A chance to walk through doors they never let me near." Aria's first day at Jefferson brought a series of swift, painful lessons about belonging. The city bus driver assumed she was at the wrong stop when she waited at the corner nearest the school. "Jefferson's another 3 miles that way, honey," he'd said, gesturing vaguely in the opposite direction. When she insisted, his eyebrows raised, but he shrugged and opened the door. The security guards at the entrance stopped her immediately, demanding identification, while white students streamed past unquestioned. "We need to verify you're supposed to be here," one said, scrutinizing her paperwork with suspicion. At the front office, the receptionist's smile faltered when Aria approached. "Janitorial services. Check in at the back entrance," she said automatically. Then flushed when Aria quietly explained she was a new student. Her homeroom teacher, Mr. Whitmore, assigned her a seat in the back corner, despite using alphabetical seating for everyone else. Throughout the morning, teachers expressed surprise at her articulate answers and strong test scores, their compliments wrapped in subtle insults. "You speak so well," her English teacher remarked, sounding genuinely astonished. "Did you have a special program at your old school?" During lunch period, Aria found herself adrift in the cafeteria, trays clattering and conversations swirling around her. She spotted an empty table near the window and made her way toward it, only to have several students suddenly place their backpacks on the seats as she approached. Madison Campbell Jefferson's undisputed queen bee intercepted Aria as she turned away. Madison's perfect blonde hair framed a face schooled in polite cruelty, her designer clothes probably costing more than Aria's entire wardrobe. "Love the discount store chic, Madison," said her friends, tittering behind her. "Did you do your hair yourself? So ethnic." Another girl chimed in. "Isn't Riverside, where that shooting happened last month? So brave of you to venture out." Their laughter followed Aria as she retreated, her lunch tray gripped so tightly her knuckles whitened. Seeking refuge, she wandered the halls until she discovered an empty music room. The grand piano in the corner gleamed under the fluorescent lights, so different from the out-of-tune upright at her old school. Believing herself alone, Aria hummed softly, a melody her mother used to sing when cooking Sunday dinner. The familiar tune provided comfort in this hostile new world. "You have perfect pitch," a voice said from the doorway, startling Aria so badly she knocked over a music stand. "Miss Robinson," the music teacher, and one of the few black faculty members, stood watching with interest. Before Aria could respond, embarrassment sent her fleeing from the room, leaving Miss Robinson calling after her. The next week brought an announcement that shattered any illusions about Jefferson's commitment to enrichment for all students. Despite its multi-million-dollar endowment, The school was cutting its music program while approving funds for a new football stadium. The arts simply don't attract the donor support that athletics do, Principal Jensen explained during assembly, his gaze never quite reaching the handful of minority scholarship students. In English class, Aria's essay on Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye earned grudging praise from Mr. Whitmore, followed immediately by suspicion. "Did you write this yourself?" he asked loudly, the entire class turning to stare. "It seems advanced for your background." The accusation of plagiarism hung in the air, unspoken but clear. When Aria offered to discuss the symbolism in the novel to prove her understanding, his lips thinned. "That won't be necessary. Just remember that at Jefferson we value academic honesty." After 3 weeks of similar incidents, Principal Jensen called Aria to his office. Behind his imposing mahogany desk, he folded his hands and regarded her with what he probably thought was kindness. "Aria, I've noticed you're having trouble adjusting to Jefferson's culture. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable returning to your previous school. We could transfer your scholarship to someone who might be a better fit." The implication was crystal clear: she didn't belong and never would. That evening, Aria finally broke down the accumulation of daily wounds becoming too heavy to bear silently. Nana Ruth listened, her face growing older with each recounted slight and insult. When Aria finished, Nana Ruth took her hands and shared stories Aria had never heard before about restaurants with no-colored signs, about jobs denied, despite qualifications, about dreams, deferred not for lack of talent, but for the color of tan, her skin. "They've been trying to silence our voices for generations," Nana Ruth said firmly. "But we still sing, we still speak, we still rise. You hear me? The day you let them convince you that you don't belong is the day they win." That night, Aria made a decision. She would keep her head down, excel academically, and just survive until graduation. Jefferson was a stepping stone, not a destination. The scholarship would lead to college, to opportunities her mother never had. She wouldn't let anything or anyone stand in her way, even if it meant becoming invisible. She learned to navigate the halls with her eyes down, to speak only when called upon, to make herself small. She would endure, but at what cost to her spirit she couldn't yet imagine. The annual spring showcase announcement came in early February, splashed across posters featuring suspiciously diverse student faces that Aria recognized from stock photos rather than actual Jefferson students. A celebration of Jefferson excellence, the posters proclaimed, though excellence at Jefferson had always been narrowly defined. The showcase was the school's premier event, drawing local media community leaders and, most importantly, alumni donors, whose checkbooks opened proportionally to their impression of the school's prestige. These same donors had established diversity scholarships that allowed them to point to faces like Aria's in school publications while continuing policies that maintained the status quo. Madison and her friends clustered around one of the posters in the main hallway, their excitement palpable as they discussed their planned performances. Their animated chatter died as Aria passed, replaced by meaningful glances and suppressed smiles. Madison's eyes narrowed thoughtfully as she noticed Aria's gaze lingering on the poster's mention of music program cuts. "Hey, Aria Madison," called her voice dripping with false sweetness. "You should totally participate in the showcase. Everyone should have their moment to shine." Her friends dissolved into poorly concealed laughter as Aria continued walking, confusion and suspicion mingling in her mind. Later that day, in the faculty lounge that no student was meant to pass, Aria overheard Miss Robinson arguing passionately with Principal Jensen about preserving the music program. "These budget cuts disproportionately affect our minority students," Miss Robinson insisted, her voice tight with controlled anger. "The arts program is their one safe space in this school." Principal Jensen's response was dismissive. "The board's decision is final, Teresa. Perhaps you should focus on making your final concerts memorable rather than fighting battles you can't win." Aria's locker became a repository for hatred over the following days. Notes appeared slipped through the vents. "Go back to your ghetto. Scholarship charity case. N-word." Each one she crumpled and disposed of, quietly refusing to give anyone the satisfaction of seeing her hurt. Carlos, a Latino scholarship student who had become her only friend at Jefferson, cornered her after chemistry class with worry etched across his face. "They're setting you up," he whispered urgently. "I overheard Madison and her group planning to nominate you for a singing slot at the showcase. They want to humiliate you." Before Aria could process this information, Vice Principal Thompson appeared at her side, clipboard in hand, and smile firmly in place. "Aria, wonderful news. You've been nominated to perform at the Spring Showcase. The administration is thrilled to have you represent our diversity initiatives." His emphasis on the last two words made their tokenization explicit. "I don't sing." Aria lied, flatly remembering the music room incident. "There must be some mistake." Thompson's smile didn't waver, but his eyes hardened. "Your participation would be noted very favorably in your scholarship review. Conversely, refusing such an honor might raise questions about your commitment to school spirit." The threat wasn't subtle. That evening, Aria returned home to find Nana Ruth sitting at their small kitchen table, worry lines deepening around her eyes. "Hospital cut my hours again," she said without preamble. "Insurance companies raising our rates next month, too." Aria's heart sank as she calculated the numbers in her head. They were already stretching every dollar. In the quiet that followed, memories surfaced of singing with her mother in their tiny kitchen, their voices blending in harmony while pots simmered on the stove. "You got your mama's voice," Nana Ruth would say, a voice meant to be heard. It had been their shared dream, once Aria singing on real stages, her mother beaming in the audience, dreams that died alongside her mother. The next day, Miss Robinson approached Aria in the hallway between classes. "I heard you've been nominated for the showcase," she said carefully. "I also hear things about why. If you decide to participate, I'd be happy to help you prepare." Her kind eyes conveyed understanding beyond her words. "I can't sing in front of people," Aria admitted quietly. "Not anymore." Miss Robinson nodded. "The offer stands. My classroom is open if you change your mind." That afternoon passing, the auditorium, Aria overheard Madison and her friends planning their showcase strategy. "When Scholarship Girl freezes on stage, we'll all start recording. Tyler said he can cut the sound system right after she starts. It'll be epic." Their laughter echoed in the empty hallway as Aria slipped away unnoticed. The harassment intensified over the following days. Someone accidentally spilled coffee over her calculus project minutes before it was due. Anonymous texts appeared on her phone from masked numbers. "Don't embarrass yourself on stage, ghetto girl. Go back where you belong." The day Aria decided to visit the principal's office to withdraw from the showcase, Nana Ruth called from the hospital. "Just feeling a little weak, baby. Nothing to worry about," she insisted, though the monitor beeps in the background told a different story. That evening, reviewing the showcase information packet that had been placed in her locker, Aria noticed something she'd missed: a $1,000 prize for the top performance. Money that could help with Nana Ruth's medical bills. With resignation heavy in her heart, Aria sought out Miss Robinson the next morning. "I'll do it," she said simply. "But I want to keep it simple. Just me and the piano." Miss Robinson's answering smile was both sad and proud. "We'll start today after school." What Aria didn't know was that Madison had already convinced the showcase organizers to place Aria's performance last in the program, ensuring a tired audience and the disadvantage of a late evening slot when judges had promised slot. Attention would be waning. The trap was set, and Aria had walked right into it. 2 weeks before the showcase, Aria's life became an exhausting balance of school, hospital visits, and secret practice sessions. Every afternoon she slipped into Miss Pline's The Life and Times of Saucin, Robinson's classroom, where the teacher patiently worked with her on technique, breathing, and performance skills. "Music is more than notes," Miss Robinson explained during one particularly difficult practice. "It's emotion given voice. When you connect with that emotion, your audience can't help but feel it too." During these sessions, Miss Robinson gradually shared her own story, a promising career as a classical pianist, cut short by instructors who claimed she lacked cultural understanding of European composers, competition judges who scored her lower despite flawless performances, and the eventual retreat to teaching when performance doors repeatedly closed. "They'll tell you it's not about race," she said quietly one afternoon. "But you'll notice the patterns if you look closely enough." Meanwhile, Carlos had become Aria's unofficial security detail, walking with her between classes and watching for threats. "Madison's group has something planned for your performance," he warned, after overhearing snippets of conversation in the boys' locker room. "They've got helpers in the tech crew. I don't know exactly what, but it's not just recording you." When Aria reported the threatening texts and locker vandalism to school security, the officer barely glanced at the evidence. "Probably just typical teenage drama," he dismissed. "Unless you have proof of who sent these, there's nothing we can do." The local news ran a feature on Jefferson's commitment to diversity the following week, with Principal Jensen proudly discussing scholarship opportunities and inclusive programming. The article included Aria's yearbook photo without her knowledge or consent, identifying her as one of the school's success stories. The same day, she discovered her face prominently featured on promotional materials for the showcase, again without permission, labeled as a rising star from our outreach program. The constant spotlight made her increasingly anxious phantom audience eyes, following her through hallways and into dreams. Nana Ruth's condition deteriorated, requiring extended hospitalization. "Just focus on your schooling," she insisted during Aria's visits, though the worry lines around her eyes deepened daily. "I'll be just fine." The medical bills arriving at their apartment told a different story. 3 days before the showcase, Principal Jensen invited Aria to a special meeting with potential donors. Throughout the entire lunch, he spoke about her as if she weren't present, highlighting her disadvantaged background and how Jefferson had rescued her from an underperforming school. Despite cultural challenges, she's adapting well, he told the wealthy alumni while Aria sat silent, her food untouched. That evening, Aria visited her mother's grave for the first time in months. The small cemetery was quiet, the setting sun painting long shadows across simple headstones. "I don't know if I can do this, Mama," she whispered, tears tracking silently down her cheeks. "They don't want me to succeed. They want to use me, then laugh when I fall." Only the gentle rustling of leaves answered her. The following day, Aria arrived for practice to find the classroom piano mysteriously damaged, several keys sticking and others producing no sound at all. "Miss Prague." Robinson's face tightened with anger, but she simply said, "We'll adapt." The voice is the most portable instrument anyway. On her way out of the building that evening, Aria encountered Mr. Wilson, the elderly janitor who often worked late shifts. Noticing her frustration, he paused his mopping. "Heard you singing in there," he said, nodding toward the music room. "Got your mama's gift." Startled, Aria stared at him. "You knew my mother, mister." Wilson nodded, leaning on his mop. "Used to play jazz clubs back in the day. Your mama would come sing sometimes before she got sick." Voice like sunshine, his weathered face softened with memory. "People gonna hate what they fear, and they fear what shines too bright. Remember that." Carlos began pulling away the day before the showcase, avoiding Aria in the hallways and not responding to texts. She finally cornered him near the library. "My father got a notice," he admitted, eyes downcast. "Immigration questioning his status. My family thinks I should keep a lower profile, not cause trouble." The unspoken message was clear. Supporting Aria had become dangerous for him. That night alone in their apartment with Nana Ruth, still hospitalized, Aria seriously considered quitting Jefferson altogether. The scholarship wasn't worth the daily assaults on her dignity, the constant reminders that she didn't belong. A school board meeting video someone anonymously sent to her phone showed Madison's father, Chairman Campbell, questioning whether lowering standards for diversity candidates served the school's reputation for excellence. The final blow came the morning of the showcase, when Aria discovered someone had recorded her singing to herself while changing clothes after gym class. The video circulated online with crude comments about jungle sounds and ghetto American Idol. Hours later, while retrieving sheet music from her locker, she overheard 2 tech crew members discussing plans to cut her microphone partway through her performance. Campbell said, "Wait until she's really into it, then kill the sound." One snickered. "Her face will be priceless." Standing in the empty hallway, something shifted in Aria's heart. The fear and anxiety crystallized into a cold, clear resolve. That night she would perform, but not as they expected. She decided to switch to an a cappella performance. No microphone, no piano, no technology that could be manipulated against her. She told no one of her plan, not even Miss Robinson. Have you ever faced a moment when it seemed like the whole world was against you? Comment number 1. If you've ever had to stand your ground when others tried to tear you down. Can you imagine the courage it takes for a 12-year-old girl to face such calculated cruelty like this video? If you believe talent can overcome prejudice, and subscribe to follow Aria's journey from thisbreaking.com. Point. What would you do in her position? Would you walk away, or would you stand and fight? As the showcase night approaches, Aria faces her greatest challenge yet, but will her voice be enough to overcome the barriers they've built around her? The evening of the spring showcase arrived with all the pomp Jefferson could muster. Luxury cars lined the circular driveway, disgorging board members in formal attire and alumni, whose donations kept the school's endowment healthy. Local news crews set up cameras in the lobby, interviewing Principal Jensen about Jefferson's commitment to excellence. Aria entered through the side door, her simple black dress, a stark contrast to the designer labels surrounding her. Whispers and snickers followed her progress down the hallway to the backstage area where performers prepared for their moments in the spotlight. The stage manager, a senior with gelled hair and obvious disdain, thrust a program into her hands without meeting her eyes. "You're last. Don't be late." Scanning the program, Aria noticed every performer had been given a personal introduction with accolades and background except her. Her listing simply read, Aria Jackson Vocal Performance. The backstage area buzzed, with activity students adjusting costumes and running through final preparations. Madison held court in the center, her crystal-studded gown, catching the light as she practiced vocal runs with exaggerated movements. When she spotted Aria, her smile turned predatory. "Break a leg," she said sweetly, then accidentally bumped into Aria's arm, causing her water bottle to spill across the front of her dress. "Oops, so clumsy of me." As Aria frantically tried to blot the water with paper towels, the stage manager approached. "You're in dressing room 12, he said, pointing down a long corridor. "Hurry up 15 minutes to places." Room 12 turned out to be a repurposed storage closet, the furthest possible space from the stage entrance. A single folding chair faced a dusty mirror, stark fluorescent lighting, casting harsh shadows across her face. The nearest bathroom was 2 floors away, making it impossible to properly clean her dress. Through the thin walls, Aria overheard 2 judges discussing the upcoming performances in the adjacent room. "The Campbell girl has this locked up one," said confidently. "Her father's donation for the new scoreboard practically guaranteed it. Besides, she actually looks the part of a Jefferson champion." The other judge chuckled. "Did you see that scholarship girl on the program? Probably has natural rhythm, but this isn't a talent show from her side of town." Their laughter drove Aria to the tiny bathroom where panic constricted her chest until black spots danced before her eyes. Gripping the sink, she fought to control her breathing as Miss Robinson had taught her. When that failed, she fumbled for her phone with trembling hands and called Nana Ruth's hospital room. "I can't do this," she whispered when her grandmother answered. "They've set me up to fail. Everyone's watching and waiting for me to humiliate myself." Nana Ruth's voice came through clear and strong despite her illness. "Aria Jackson, you listen to me now. Your mama sang through churches being bombed. I sang through water hoses and police dogs. You come from women who turned pain into power. Now you go out there and sing your truth. Let them hear who you really are." Strengthened by her grandmother's words, Aria made her way back toward the stage, only to be stopped by security when she tried to find Miss Robinson. "Teachers need to stay in the audience," the guard informed her bluntly. "Performers only backstage." One by one, the showcase performances unfolded. Instrumental pieces, dance routines, dramatic monologues, each met with enthusiastic applause from the supportive audience. Madison performed just before Aria, her technically proficient but emotionally hollow rendition of a popular ballad, earning a standing ovation from the front rows where board members and her father Saturday. Finally, after nearly 3 hours, the MC called Aria's name with none of the flourish afforded to previous performers. Our final performer tonight is Aria Jackson with a vocal piece. Stepping onto the brightly lit stage, Aria blinked against the sudden glare. The auditorium stretched before her, hundreds of faces turned expectantly in her direction. In the front row, Madison and her friends held phones ready to record, barely containing their anticipation. The tech crew member at the soundboard gave a subtle thumbs up to someone in the wings. Aria stood frozen as described in the hook, the weight of the moment threatening to crush her. From the audience, she caught a glimpse of Miss Robinson's encouraging nod, and somewhere in the back of her mind, she heard her mother's voice from years ago. "Sing through the fear, baby girl. Let your voice rise above it." The backing track she had rehearsed with began to play a contemporary pop song, chosen for its simplicity. Aria opened her mouth to begin, then stopped as the track mysteriously developed technical difficulties, the sound cutting in and out before failing completely. "Sorry, folks. Seems we're having audio issues," the tech announcer said, not sounding sorry at all. A ripple of amusement moved through the audience. Several phones raised higher, ready to capture her embarrassment. In that crystalline moment of silence, Aria made a decision. She raised her hand to signal the tech booth. "No backing track," she said clearly into the microphone, which they hadn't yet cut since the sabotage was meant to come later. Confused murmurs spread through the audience. Madison's smug smile faltered slightly. Aria closed her eyes, drew a deep breath from her diaphragm as Miss Robinson had taught her, and began to sing not the pop song she had rehearsed, but an old spiritual her mother and grandmother had sung in their kitchen, passed down through generations. Wade in the water, she began, her voice soft, but perfectly pitched, each note crystal clear in the silent auditorium. "God's gonna trouble the water." The simple, unaccompanied melody floated over the audience, gathering strength with each phrase. By the second verse, her voice had expanded to fill every corner of the space, rich with emotion and technical precision that belied her age and lack of formal training. She sang of struggle and perseverance, of hidden paths to freedom of faith, sustained through impossible circumstances. The historical weight of the song merged with her personal journey, creating something transcendent. Throughout the auditorium, phones lowered one by one, as listeners became too entranced to remember why they'd raised them. Madison's expression transformed from anticipatory glee to stunned disbelief. The judges sat motionless, pens forgotten in their hands. Miss Robinson watched through tears of pride and recognition. Aria's voice continued to build decades of ancestral power, channeling through her young body, each note perfectly controlled, yet brimming with raw emotion. For the final verse, she held a note that seemed to defy human capacity, sustaining it so long that the audience collectively held their breath. When the last note finally faded, the auditorium remained in complete stunned silence. No cough, no shifted position, no whispered comment broke the spell her voice had cast. Then, from the back of the room, someone began to applaud. The solitary sound was quickly joined by another, then another, building into thunderous applause that seemed to shake the foundations of the building. People rose to their feet, many wiping tears, their ovation continuing long after Aria had taken a simple bow and exited the stage. Backstage, Madison and her friends stood silent, their phones forgotten in their hands. The tech crew member stared at his control board as if it had betrayed him. In the judges' area, the panel exchanged uncomfortable glances, suddenly aware that their predetermined decision had become considerably more complicated. The results announcement came after a suspiciously long deliberation, during which raised voices could be heard from the judges' room. Principal Jensen appeared visibly uncomfortable as he took the microphone, tugging at his collar and avoiding eye contact with certain sections of the audience. After careful consideration of all our talented performers, he began with forced enthusiasm. "The judges have awarded first place to Madison Campbell for her moving vocal performance." Polite applause with scattered murmuring followed as Madison took the stage, her victory smile not quite reaching her eyes. Second place goes to Tyler Williams for his original piano composition, and third to Emma Chen for her violin concerto. Jensen paused, clearing his throat. The judges would also like to recognize Aria Jackson with an honorable mention for her unexpected a cappella presentation. The tepid phrasing couldn't diminish the audience's response, immediate and enthusiastic applause that dwarfed the reaction to the announced winners. Discomfort flickered across Jensen's face as he quickly ushered everyone toward the reception area. As Aria made her way through the crowd, a woman with a press badge intercepted her. Deanna Mills, Atlanta Tribune. That was extraordinary. Would you share your musical background with our readers? Have you had formal training before Aria could respond? Vice Principal Thompson materialized at her side, his grip on her elbow firm, but hidden from observers by his body. Position. Miss Mills, our students are not authorized to give interviews without parental consent and administrative approval. I'm sure you understand our protective policies. He smoothly guided Aria away, his smile vanishing once they were out of the reporter's sight. That was quite a stunt, he hissed under his breath. Changing your performance without authorization. The showcase has protocols for a reason. Madison's father appeared beside them, his tailored suit and confident bearing marking him as someone accustomed to authority. Impressive pipes, young lady, he said with an evaluating gaze that never quite acknowledged her humanity. A natural talent as expected. Principal Jensen, a word. The two men moved away, heads bent in intense conversation, while Thompson directed Aria toward the exit with unmistakable dismissal. Outside, Miss Robinson waited by the side door, pride radiating from her usually reserved demeanor. They can give away their plastic trophies, she said quietly, but everyone in that room knows what they witnessed tonight. The next morning, Aria woke to her phone, buzzing incessantly with notifications. Overnight, someone had uploaded a shaky video of her performance to social media where it had exploded across platforms. Comments flooded in by the thousands. Who is this girl? Why only an honorable mention? I'm in tears. Listening to this. This is what raw talent looks like. Jefferson High robbed her. The school day brought a surreal shift in dynamics. Students who had previously ignored or tormented her suddenly offered fake smiles and overly friendly greetings. Your performance was amazing, gushed a girl who last week had moved her backpack to prevent Aria from sitting nearby. We should totally hang out sometime. Teachers who had questioned her abilities now paid excessive attention to her contributions in class. Would you like to share your perspective? Aria asked Mr. Tension. Whitmore, who had previously interrupted or ignored her, raised hand. We'd all benefit from your insights. During third period, a message arrived summoning her to Principal Jensen's office. Behind his imposing desk, Jensen wore the strained smile of someone facing an unexpected public relations situation. Aria, first let me congratulate you on your showcase performance. Quite moving. His tone suggested he'd rehearsed this opening. I wanted to discuss an exciting opportunity. Standing center stage at Carnegie Hall, Aria froze as thousands of eyes burned into her. 3 months ago, she was just another bullied black girl at Jefferson High until they forced her to sing as a cruel joke. Now, taking a deep breath, she prepared to change everything. Before we dive into this incredible journey, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe if you've ever felt underestimated. Robinson had been placed on administrative leave for insubordination related to showcase protocols. The substitute teacher offered no explanation beyond reading worksheet instructions, but the message was clear: supporting Aria had consequences. In the cafeteria, Madison held court at her usual table, her voice deliberately carrying. My voice coach said anyone can sound soulful if they shout enough. Besides, she's obviously had professional training there hiding to make the diversity narrative more impressive. The seeds of doubt were being carefully planted. After school, Aria found a message request from an account called Music Producer ATL. Saw your video. Impressive range and control. Would like to discuss potential opportunities. DM if interested. She stared at the message, unsure if it was legitimate or another elaborate prank. That evening, visiting Nana Ruth at the hospital, Aria found her grandmother alert and smiling for the first time in weeks. Nurse showed me that video on her phone, Nana Ruth said, squeezing Aria's hand. You sang your truth just like I knew you would. Her doctor had mentioned improved vital signs, a positive turn they couldn't quite explain medically. Carlos approached her before first period the next day, contrition written across his features. "I'm sorry I disappeared on you," he said, glancing nervously around the hallway. "My parents were scared, but after seeing what happened, they said some things are worth standing up for." He slipped a USB drive into her hand. "I recorded Madison and the others planning everything. The sound system sabotaged the video they planned to make all of it. My cousin works for a civil rights attorney. She says, you have a case if you want to pursue it." Aria felt a strange calm as she pocketed the drive. The landscape had shifted, but she wasn't naive enough to believe the battle was won. After chemistry class, she deliberately approached Madison at her locker. "I know what you did," she said quietly. No accusation in her tone, just simple acknowledgement. Madison's carefully constructed facade cracked momentarily genuine fear, flashing in her eyes before she recovered. "I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe you should focus on being grateful for the opportunities Jefferson has given you." Their conversation, including Madison's inadvertent admissions while trying to defend herself, was captured clearly on the recording app running on Aria's phone in her pocket. That afternoon, Principal Jensen called again, this time with an offer wrapped in philanthropy. "Several board members were quite moved by your story," he explained, hands steepled on his desk. "They've proposed creating a special performance opportunity at the donor dinner with a modest scholarship attached. Of course, this would require your full participation in our media outreach and diversity initiatives." The conditions were implicit but clear. Take the money, become the smiling face of Jefferson's fictional inclusivity, and drop any potential complaints. While waiting for the bus home, Aria encountered Mr. A.G.'s loose tea, Wilson emptying trash cans near the school entrance. The elderly janitor nodded in acknowledgement. "Heard about your performance. Wasn't surprised." He glanced around to ensure they weren't overheard. "I know some people in the music business. Real ones, not these school folks playing games. If you're interested, I could make a call or two." For the first time, Aria allowed herself to consider possibilities beyond mere survival at Jefferson. The following day, a local community organization reached out through social media asking to meet about Jefferson's treatment of minority students. "You're not the first," their message stated. "But your video has people asking questions the administration can't ignore." As Aria researched the organization, she discovered dozens of testimonials from former Jefferson students of color describing systematic discrimination dating back decades. A truth was emerging that no showcase results could conceal. The music program that had provided refuge for minority students was being eliminated, while Jefferson's public image highlighted diversity initiatives that existed primarily on paper. Despite Madison winning the showcase, Aria had inadvertently sparked something much larger than a high school competition. Her voice had become a catalyst, and the administration's attempts to control the narrative were beginning to crumble under the weight of long-suppressed truths. 3 days after the showcase, Aria received an email from Eleanor Reed, director of the prestigious Atlanta Youth Choir, inviting her to audition for their competitive program. "Your performance video demonstrates exceptional natural talent that we believe could flourish with proper training," the email stated. When Aria brought the invitation to Vice Principal Thompson for the required field trip permission, his reaction was immediate and negative. "Unfortunately, Jefferson has contractual obligations regarding student performances," he explained with practiced regret. "As a scholarship recipient, your artistic contributions represent the school. Outside engagements require board approval, which takes several weeks." The obstacles continued mounting. Local news ran a feature on Aria describing her as a viral sensation from an underprivileged background discovered at a school talent show. The story included quotes from Principal Jensen about Jefferson's long-standing commitment to nurturing diverse talents, but made no mention of the music program cuts or the showcase judging controversy. The exposure brought unexpected support from the community. Anonymous donations appeared to help with Nana Ruth's medical bills. A local church organized transportation to ensure Aria could visit her grandmother daily. Music teachers from across Atlanta offered free lessons. This growing outside support seemed to intensify the hostility within Jefferson's walls. Madison's group escalated their harassment, now openly using racial slurs when teachers weren't present. "Going viral doesn't change what you are," Madison hissed during passing period. "You'll never belong here." Aria's locker was vandalized, repeatedly hateful messages scratched into the metal, and disgusting substances smeared on her books. When she reported these incidents, the administration suggested she was seeking attention following her social media fame. Meanwhile, Ms. Robinson filed a formal discrimination complaint against Jefferson, citing years of systematic bias in program funding, disciplinary actions, and staff treatment. The school placed her on extended leave, pending an investigation effectively removing her support from Aria and other minority students. The pressure began taking a physical toll. Aria developed insomnia, spending nights staring at her ceiling, rehearsing imaginary confrontations and escapes. Her concentration suffered test scores, dropping for the first time since entering Jefferson. The youth choir audition loomed as both opportunity and threat, a chance at legitimate musical training, but also potentially another arena for humiliation and rejection. When the audition day arrived, Aria discovered Principal Jensen had scheduled a mandatory scholarship student review for the exact same time slot. Attendance is required to maintain your financial aid status. The email notification stated clearly. The choice was being forced: her education or her talent. With Carlos's help and a carefully constructed excuse involving a medical appointment, Aria managed to attend the audition. Eleanor Reed was everything Miss Robinson had described: exacting, intimidating, but scrupulously fair. "Your natural talent is extraordinary," she told Aria after her performance. "Your technique needs refinement, but your instincts are impeccable. We would be honored to have you join us." The acceptance came with a rigorous schedule: rehearsals, 3 evenings a week, and all-day Saturday, directly conflicting with Jefferson's mandatory study halls for scholarship students. When Aria attempted to discuss schedule accommodations, Principal Jensen was unmoved. "Academic probation is automatic after 3 unexcused absences," he reminded her. "Excellence requires sacrifice, Aria. You'll need to decide what matters most to you." Madison's father called an emergency board meeting to discuss maintaining Jefferson's standards in light of recent distractions. The agenda, which Carlos obtained through his student council connections, included items like performance eligibility requirements and scholarship student expectations, thinly veiled attempts to create new barriers. The pressure wasn't only coming from Jefferson. When Aria visited friends in her old neighborhood, she faced accusations of acting white and forgetting where she came from. "You think you're better than us now with your fancy school and viral videos," demanded Tasha, once her closest friend. The conflicting demands pulled Aria in all directions, forcing impossible choices. The youth choir director, while impressed with Aria's voice, showed subtle bias in song assignments, giving white students classical repertoire while directing Aria towards spirituals and jazz. "Play to your natural strength," she advised, ignoring Aria's interest in Baroque composers. Carlos continued documenting the ongoing discrimination, building a digital archive of incidents, policy changes, and testimonials from current and former students. "My cousin says this could support a civil rights investigation if we can prove systematic patterns," he explained. Community organizers began approaching Aria about becoming a spokesperson for educational equity, adding yet another weight to her already burdened shoulders. "Your story has resonance," explained Darius Washington from the Educational Justice Coalition. "You could help change things for hundreds of students facing the same barriers." Overwhelmed by competing demands and constant scrutiny, Aria's voice began to falter. During choir rehearsals, notes that once came effortlessly now required strain. At school, she withdrew from participation, the joy of learning smothered under political machinations beyond her control. Her grades continued slipping, providing ammunition for those claiming her scholarship had been misallocated. After a particularly difficult day where a teacher had publicly questioned whether she was Jefferson material, Aria encountered Mr. Wilson cleaning empty classrooms after hours. Noticing her distress, he set aside his vacuum cleaner and gestured to a chair. "Sit a minute," he said gently. As Aria complied, he studied her with knowing eyes. "You're wondering if it's worth it. All this fighting just to sing." She nodded, unable to voice the doubt consuming her. "I had a chance once," Mr. Wilson continued, his gaze distant with memory. played saxophone with some big names back in the day. Had a shot at a record deal in 1972. He paused, the weight of decades evident in his silence. Producer told me I had the wrong look for jazz going mainstream. Needed someone who wouldn't complicate album sales, if you understand my meaning. Aria understood perfectly. What did you do? Mr. Wilson's smile held both wisdom and regret. Walked away. Told myself I was taking the high road. Ended up taking the road that led here, cleaning up after folks who'd never know what music I had in me. He fixed her with a penetrating look. Sometimes the fight is the point, young lady. Sometimes just refusing to be silenced is the victory. Have you ever stood at a crossroads where every path seemed to demand an impossible sacrifice? Comment number 1. If you've ever had to choose between your dreams and your security. Can you imagine carrying the weight of an entire community's hopes while facing such personal challenges? Double tap that like button if you believe talent deserves a chance, regardless of background, and subscribe to see how Aria navigates these treacherous waters. Will she find the strength to reclaim her voice, or will the combined pressures silence her gift forever? What would you fight for, even if the odds seemed impossible? The turning point came from an unexpected direction. Tyler Bennett, Madison's boyfriend and Jefferson's star quarterback, approached Aria after school one rainy Tuesday. "Can we talk somewhere private?" he asked, glancing nervously over his shoulder. Suspicious but curious, Aria suggested the library's group study room, which required student ID scanning and would create a record of their meeting. Once inside, Tyler's confident facade crumbled. "What they're doing to you is wrong," he said simply. "I've been watching it happen and saying nothing. I can't do that anymore." He pulled out his phone and showed Aria recordings of conversations between Madison's father and school administrators, discussions about managing the scholarship student situation and containing potential PR damage. "My dad's on the alumni board," Tyler explained. "These were recorded during meetings at our house. Madison doesn't know I have them." His unexpected alliance proved crucial. As a respected athlete from a prominent family, Tyler's testimony carried weight that Aria's and Carlos's evidence alone might not have. That same week, Miss Robinson connected Aria with the Black Musicians Alliance of Atlanta, a network of professional performers and educators committed to supporting young artists of color. They can provide mentorship that goes beyond technique. Miss Pridey, Robinson explained during a clandestine meeting at a coffee shop far from Jefferson. They understand the unique challenges you're facing because they've lived them. The alliance paired Aria with Jasmine Powell, a successful opera singer who had navigated similar barriers 20 years earlier. "Your voice is your instrument, but it's also your weapon and your shield," Jasmine advised during their first session. "They expect you to shout or surrender. Surprise them by singing through the storm." Community organizers from Riverside created a support network for Aria and Nana Ruth, arranging transportation, meal deliveries, and hospital visit companions to ease their practical burdens. "This isn't charity," explained community leader Mrs. Washington. "This is how we survive, by lifting each other when systems are designed to make us fall." Carlos, emboldened by Tyler's example, organized a student petition demanding fair treatment and transparent policies at Jefferson. "It's not just about you anymore," he told Aria, as signatures accumulated, including many from white students disturbed by what they were beginning to recognize. "You've opened people's eyes to what's been happening right in front of them." As external support strengthened her position, Aria discovered an unexpected outlet for her tumultuous emotions: songwriting. Late at night, when sleep proved elusive, she began translating her experiences into lyrics and melodies. These raw, unpolished compositions became private anthems of resilience and truth-telling. "When they try to silence my voice, I find new ways to make it heard," she wrote in her growing collection of songs. The school administration, sensing their control, slipping intensified scrutiny of Aria's academic work. Teachers suddenly found concerning patterns in her assignments, questioned test answers that matched too closely with other students, and applied rubrics with unprecedented strictness. "We're simply ensuring our scholarship students meet Jefferson's rigorous standards," Principal Jensen explained when Nana Ruth questioned the pattern during a conference call. The youth choir performances approached representing a significant opportunity to be seen by industry professionals. 2 days before the event, Aria received anonymous text messages with explicit threats: "Sing anywhere but Jefferson," and "Watch what happens to your grandmother's care." Some scholarship students have accidents when they forget their place. She reported the threats to police, who took a report but offered little hope of tracing the masked numbers. Mr. Wilson, continuing his unexpected role as ally, volunteered to drive Aria to rehearsals when the school suddenly rescinded her bus privileges due to budget constraints. During these drives, he shared knowledge accumulated through decades in Atlanta's music scene. "There's a difference between performing and testifying," he explained. "One's about showing skill, the other's about speaking truth. The greats could do both at once." Other minority students, inspired by Aria's stand and the growing support network, began sharing their own experiences of discrimination at Jefferson. Lian Chen described being consistently passed over for advanced math placement, despite perfect test scores. Marcus Washington detailed security, following him through hallways, while white students roamed freely. Patterns emerged that couldn't be dismissed as isolated incidents. The local civil rights organization compiled these testimonies alongside statistical evidence showing disparities in disciplinary actions, program placements, and resource allocation. "We have grounds for a formal Department of Education investigation," their attorney confirmed during a community meeting. "The question is whether families are prepared for the backlash such action might trigger." Madison's father, sensing the shifting dynamics, escalated to legal threats. A cease and desist letter arrived at Aria's apartment, claiming her defamatory statements about Jefferson's fair and equitable practices could result in legal action unless she publicly retracted them. The youth choir director, recognizing Aria's songwriting talent during a practice session where she improvised around a difficult passage, encouraged her to develop this unexpected gift. "Your technical skills are improving daily," she observed, "but your original phrases have something special: authenticity that can't be taught." As regional television producers contacted Aria about featuring her story in a documentary about educational inequality, Jefferson's legal team sent additional warnings, claiming the school owned rights to all performances, compositions, or artistic expressions developed using school resources or resulting from school placement. Torn between speaking her truth and protecting her future, Aria sought wisdom from every mentor in her expanding circle. Nana Ruth, health improving but still fragile, offered characteristic clarity. "Truth outlasts threats, baby girl. Your voice was given to you by God, not Jefferson High." Jasmine from the Musicians Alliance provided practical perspective. "They're bluffing about ownership claims. They know they can't win that fight legally. They're just hoping to scare you into silence." After sleepless deliberation, Aria made a decision that would define her path forward. She would perform an original song about her experiences at the upcoming youth choir showcase, directly addressing the discrimination she'd faced, while demonstrating her evolving artistry. The choice carried enormous risk potential: legal challenges, escalated harassment, even scholarship revocation, but also offered something precious: the chance to reclaim her voice on her own terms. The Atlanta Symphony Hall gleamed under spring sunshine as attendees filed in for the Atlanta Youth Choir's seasonal showcase. Program notes highlighted exceptional young talents from across the metropolitan area, with special attention to college scouts and industry professionals in attendance. Backstage, Aria reviewed her music one final time, the original composition both terrifying and liberating in its honesty. The choir director had initially hesitated at her request to perform her own work, but relented after hearing the powerful piece. "Just be prepared for the consequences," she'd warned. Through the curtain, Aria spotted an unexpected group entering the auditorium: Madison Tyler and several other Jefferson students taking seats near the middle. Their presence sent a spike of anxiety through her already frayed nerves. More surprising still was the arrival of Principal Jensen and several board members, ostensibly attending to support Jefferson's talented representatives, but unmistakably there to monitor her performance. Minutes before the program began, Aria made a devastating discovery. The sheet music for her solo had been subtly altered, key changes, tempo markings, and several critical passages modified just enough to derail her performance if she followed the doctored version. There wasn't time to reprint the correct version, and the pianist would be following his copy, creating potential disaster. Choir director, Miss Reed, made last-minute adjustments to the program, mysteriously moving Aria's solo from its prominent middle position to near the end, limiting its impact and ensuring it would come after audience attention had begun to wane. Programming decision, she explained curtly when Aria questioned the change. School representatives positioned themselves prominently in the audience, their presence a silent reminder of potential consequences. Vice Principal Thompson ostentatiously made notes on a small pad throughout the performances of Jefferson students, his evaluation implicit in every pen stroke. When Aria's moment finally arrived, technical issues immediately surfaced. Her microphone produced feedback, then delivered her voice at a fraction of the appropriate volume. The pianist, following the altered sheet music, began in a key that clashed with her vocal range. Lesser training might have resulted in a humiliating breakdown, but the skills Miss Robinson and Jasmine had instilled allowed Aria to adapt in real time. She adjusted her pitch, projected her voice beyond the handicapped microphone, and subtly guided the pianist back to the correct progression through sheer vocal control. The audience, initially restless after nearly 2 hours of performances, gradually stilled as Aria's powerful composition cut through technical sabotage. Her lyrics spoke of promises broken, of standards applied unequally, of voices silenced and resilience discovered. Without naming Jefferson or specific individuals, she painted an unmistakable portrait of institutional discrimination wrapped in the language of opportunity. By the final verse, she had abandoned the compromised microphone entirely, her natural projection filling the concert hall with unamplified power that rendered technical manipulation irrelevant. The standing ovation that followed seemed to physically unsettle Miss Reed and the Jefferson representatives. Audience members, many visibly moved, continued applauding long after Aria had taken her bow and exited the stage. Backstage, Miss Robinson waited in the wings, having slipped in during the performance. "They tried to bury the truth," she said, embracing Aria tightly. "But they don't understand that our traditions were born from having to speak truth without permission." Her former teacher's presence provided strength for what came next. As Aria gathered her belongings, Miss Robinson revealed what her investigation had uncovered. Jefferson's internal review had actually found substantial evidence of discriminatory practices, but administrators had buried the results and doubled down on targeting those who spoke out. "They're not just protecting their reputation," Miss Robinson explained. "They're protecting millions in alumni donations that might disappear if their diversity failures became public." Several media representatives had attended the showcase, and unlike at Jefferson's events, the administration couldn't control their access here. Reporters approached Aria immediately, cameras capturing not just her responses, but also the subsequent attempts by Jefferson's staff to interrupt and redirect the interviews. Most surprising was Madison's appearance in the backstage area, eyes red and demeanor utterly transformed from her usual confidence. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly, her voice lacking its usual sharp edge. In a private corner, Madison's carefully constructed facade crumbled completely. "My father threatened to withdraw college support if I didn't help target you," she confessed, tears streaming unchecked. "He said Jefferson's reputation was tied to our family name, and your success made the school look bad for not discovering your talent themselves." The admission was illuminating but not exculpatory. Years of cruelty couldn't be erased by one moment of honesty. "Why tell me this now?" Aria asked, maintaining emotional distance. Madison's answer revealed unexpected depths. "Your song. It wasn't just about what they did to you. It was about what the system does to all of us, just in different ways." Tyler appeared with the final piece of damning evidence, a recording from his phone of a closed board meeting where Madison's father explicitly discussed strategies for removing Aria from Jefferson without triggering discrimination. Complaints. Create academic barriers rather than explicitly racial ones, he had advised other board members. Find technical violations of scholarship terms that appear neutral but achieve the desired outcome. As Aria processed these revelations, a distinguished older man approached their group. "Remarkable performance, young lady," he said, extending his business card identifying him as Marcus Stevens, executive producer at Atlantic Records. "I'd like to discuss your future. Your composition shows potential beyond your technical gifts." The opportunity was precisely what she had dreamed of: validation of her talent from industry professionals with power to launch genuine careers. Yet the timing placed it in direct conflict with the broader fight for justice at Jefferson. School administrators, observing the interaction with Stevens, quickly initiated damage control. Principal Jensen approached with his most diplomatic smile. "Miss Jackson is still a minor, of course, and Jefferson maintains certain rights regarding our scholarship students' professional engagements. I'm sure we can discuss appropriate pathways forward that benefit everyone." The implication was clear: any recording opportunity would be controlled, shaped, and ultimately credited to Jefferson's nurturing environment. The civil rights organization's attorney, present at Aria's invitation, stepped forward with perfect timing. "Actually, my client's performance today contained entirely original material created without school resources or supervision. Furthermore, we filed a formal complaint with the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights regarding Jefferson's discriminatory practices, with substantial supporting evidence." The confrontation that had been building for months had finally arrived, forcing all parties to reveal their true positions. Aria stood at the center, no longer a frightened girl seeking to survive Jefferson, but a young artist and advocate with growing power to effect change. That evening, she sat with Nana Ruth in their small apartment, considering the diverging paths before her. The recording opportunity offered individual success and validation of her talent, an escape from Jefferson and its toxic environment. The civil rights complaint promised harder battles but potential systemic change that could benefit countless students beyond herself. "What would Mom have wanted me to do?" she asked softly, staring at her mother's photograph on the wall. Nana Ruth considered the question with appropriate gravity. "Your mama never got her big chance because the doors were closed to folks who looked like her. She'd want those doors opened, not just for you to slip through alone." The night stretched long as Aria contemplated what true victory would mean in a battle that had evolved far beyond a high school showcase. Standing center stage at Carnegie Hall, Aria froze, as thousands of eyes burned into her. 3 months after the youth choir showcased the journey from bullied scholarship student to this historic venue seemed almost impossible to comprehend. The path that led here had required choices few 12-year-olds should have to make, yet each decision had shaped not just her future, but the possibilities for others who would follow. In the weeks after the confrontation backstage at Symphony Hall, events had unfolded with dizzying speed. The Department of Education launched a formal investigation into Jefferson's practices, prompted by the extensive documentation provided by Aria Carlos Tyler and dozens of other current and former students. Their testimonies revealed patterns of discrimination spanning decades affecting hundreds of minority students whose opportunities had been silently constrained through neutral policies with discriminatory impacts. Producer Marcus Stevens had offered Aria an immediate recording contract, dangling the escape she had often dreamed about during her darkest days at Jefferson. The temptation to leave the fight behind to focus solely on her artistic development had been nearly overwhelming. "Your talent deserves nurturing without these distractions," Stevens had argued persuasively. "Let the lawyers handle Jefferson while you build your career." The decision she made that night with Nana Ruth to decline immediate recording opportunities in favor of using her growing platform to address systemic issues had seemed like choosing a harder path. Yet, as Aria took a deep breath and gazed across Carnegie Hall's illustrious stage, she understood it had actually opened doors that individual success alone never could. "Music gave me a voice when they tried to silence me." She began addressing the audience without singing her spoken words, carrying to every corner of the historic space. "Tonight is not just about what I overcame, but about changing the systems that forced children to overcome in the first place." The flashbacks came rapidly, each barrier that had tried to contain her gift, each lesson that had strengthened her resolve. The vicious notes in her locker, Miss Robinson's guidance and sacrifice, Carlos's steadfast friendship despite risks to his family, Mr. Wilson's wisdom born from his own deferred dreams, Nana Ruth's unwavering belief, even from a hospital bed. Every step had contributed to this moment, not as a solo triumph, but as a movement gathering momentum. Her performance began with the song from the Youth Choir Showcase, now expanded and refined its honest accounting of discrimination wrapped in melody that made truth impossible to ignore. Midway through, she gestured stage left where Miss Robinson appeared, leading a student choir composed of minority students from schools across Atlanta, including several from Jefferson who had found courage in Aria's stand. Their voices joined hers, amplifying the message beyond what any solo performance could achieve. The audience sat transfixed as the performance evolved beyond entertainment into powerful testimony. When Madison stepped onto stage for the planned but still surprising appearance, audible gasps rippled through the hall. The former tormentor had undergone her own transformation, recognizing how the system had shaped her into an enforcer of unjust norms. Her public apology, delivered as a spoken interlude within the musical performance, acknowledged complicity while committing to change. "I was taught to see difference as threat," she admitted, voice wavering, but determined. "I'm learning to see it as strength." The performance culminated with the premiere of Aria's newest composition, Unified Voices, written specifically about building connections across divides of race, class, and opportunity. The song featured solos from diverse choir members alongside Aria's lead, demonstrating in structure what the lyrics advocated in content. As the final notes faded, Aria stepped forward once more. "Tonight we're announcing the formation of the Harmony Foundation," she said, her voice steady, with newfound confidence. "With support from community organizations and corporate sponsors, we'll provide arts education in underserved communities across Georgia because talent shouldn't depend on zip code to be recognized." The announcement represented months of behind-the-scenes work with the Black Musicians Alliance community leaders and, surprisingly, several Jefferson alumni disturbed by the revelations about their alma mater. The federal investigation had forced sweeping changes at Jefferson and ripple effects throughout Atlanta's educational landscape. The entire school board had resigned following damning findings of systematic discrimination and fund misappropriation. Principal Jensen and Vice Principal Thompson had been placed on administrative leave pending further investigation. Miss Price. Robinson had been appointed interim arts director for the district, tasked with rebuilding programs that had been systematically dismantled. Jefferson was undergoing mandatory bias training and policy revision under federal supervision with quarterly compliance reviews to ensure sustained change rather than cosmetic adjustments. Aria had ultimately declined the major label contract, recognizing the potential limitations it might place on her advocacy work. Instead, she accepted a mentorship arrangement with Atlantic Records that allowed her to continue her education while developing as an artist and songwriter. The arrangement preserved her independence while providing professional guidance. In perhaps the most personal victory, a music scholarship had been established in her mother's name specifically for minority students showing promise in the arts. The first recipients would begin their training the following fall, continuing a legacy that extended beyond individual achievement. Carlos's family had received unexpected support from community legal aid organizations mobilized by the Jefferson case, resulting in resolved immigration issues and legal status that ended years of uncertainty and fear. Nana Ruth, health stabilized and spirit renewed, had accepted a position as community liaison for the district's arts program, bringing decades of wisdom to the rebuilding effort. Mr. Wilson, recognized at last for his musical knowledge and experience, had been hired as an adjunct teacher, sharing the rich history of jazz with students who might otherwise never learn their cultural inheritance. As the Carnegie Hall performance concluded, Aria found herself in a quiet moment backstage with a younger student from Riverside, a 9-year-old girl paralyzed with stage fright before her small solo in the final number. "What if I mess up the girl?" whispered terror evident in her eyes. "What if they laugh at me?" Aria knelt to meet her gaze directly. "Then you keep singing anyway," she said gently. Your voice matters just because it's yours. No one can take that away unless you let them." As the girl nodded and straightened her shoulders, Aria recognized her own transformation, reflected in this simple interaction, from victim seeking survival to leader, creating paths for others. The moment connected directly back to that frozen second described in the hook, when a bullied girl stood on stage facing those who expected her failure. She had not only survived that moment, but transformed it into a catalyst for change that would outlast any single performance. Most surprising of all had been Madison's gradual evolution from antagonist to ally. Following her father's resignation from the board in disgrace, she had faced her own reckoning with the values she'd been raised to defend. Her presence in Aria's community choir represented the beginning of her own journey toward growth and understanding, not forgiveness for past cruelty, but commitment to different choices moving forward. As the audience filed out of Carnegie Hall, conversations buzzed with recognition that they had witnessed something beyond a musical performance. They had seen the transformative power of a voice that refused to be silenced, amplified by a community that recognized its value. In the quiet after the applause, Aria understood that true victory wasn't measured in standing ovations or recording contracts, but in systems changed, doors opened, and voices empowered to tell their own stories without permission or apology. Her journey from ridicule to recognition had never been about personal fame, but about ensuring that the next girl with a gift wouldn't have to fight so hard for the simple right to be heard. Has this story touched your heart the way it's touched so many others? Comment below with a moment that resonated most deeply with you. If you believe every voice deserves to be heard regardless of background, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more stories of courage and transformation. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded of their own power to overcome barriers. Thank you for joining Aria's journey from bullied schoolgirl to voice of change. Remember, when they try to silence you, sing louder. Aria's journey teaches us that true power lies not in silencing others, but in finding your authentic voice. When faced with systemic discrimination, her talent became both shield and weapon-proof, that excellence can transcend prejudice. The story reminds us that institutional racism thrives in silence, and speaking truth through our gifts can illuminate injustice more effectively than any formal complaint. We learn that allies emerge from unexpected places when we stand firmly in our truth. Tyler, Mr. Wilson, and eventually Madison all demonstrate how courage inspires courage, creating ripples of change beyond what one person could accomplish alone. The support network that formed around Aria illustrates how community becomes essential to surviving discrimination and creating lasting change. Perhaps most importantly, Aria's choice to pursue systemic change rather than individual success teaches us that true victory isn't measured by personal achievement alone. By refusing to accept token recognition that left barriers in place for others, she transformed individual talent into collective progress. The story challenges us to examine our own choices when witnessing discrimination. Will we remain comfortable bystanders? Or will we risk privilege to stand with those facing injustice? Aria reminds us that our voices matter not just for what they can achieve for us personally, but for the doors they can open for others who follow. Has a moment of discrimination ever silenced your true voice? Or have you witnessed someone else's light being dimmed by prejudice? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If Aria's journey resonated with you, hit that like button to help this message reach others facing similar struggles. Subscribe to our channel for more stories of courage that transform pain into purpose and prejudice into power. Remember to share this video with someone who might need encouragement to stand firm when facing discrimination. Thank you for being part of a community that believes every voice deserves to be heard, regardless of background or circumstance. Together we can ensure that talent and truth will always find a way to rise, even against the strongest currents of injustice.